Okay, so here's what actually happened. Two separate crises stacked. Since late 2023, Houthi attacks in the Red Sea pushed insurers to slap war risk premiums on Suez transits. Container lines detoured around Africa, adding 10-14 days on Asia, Europe lanes, and spiking charter rates. At the same time, Panama's drought cut daily transits from typical mid-30s per day to as low as the high teens through early 2024, with depth limits forcing lighter loads. Capacity began to normalize only later, but shippers learned a hard lesson. Chokepoints can fail together. Now this is important because route choice is just math, days, fuel, risk. Cape of Good Hope adds distance but offers predictability. The Drake Passage. It's shorter for some Pacific, Atlantic swings if you cut diagonals, but the weather tax is real. So why even consider it? Because predictability can beat distance when insurers and schedules punish uncertainty in the Red Sea and queues in Panama. Here's where it gets interesting. The reroute calculus shifted from which canal to which risk. Under high war risk rates, a carrier saving 2 weeks around the Cape still eats bunker costs and schedule chaos. If Panama throttles again, the Pacific, Atlantic pivot needs a second hedge. That's when planners start sketching southern contingency playbooks. Seasonal windows, convoy timing, prearranged pilots at punter arenas or Ushuaia, bunkering guarantees and spare parts cached near the Strait of Magellan. Most people think nobody's testing this, but majors quietly are. You won't see a press release that says we're going Drake, but you will see time charter clauses updated to allow alternate southern routing at master's discretion. Seasonal force majeure definitions widen to include security advisories and optional bunkering calls in the Magellan system. Expedition and research fleets already treat the passage like a known corridor. Commercial operators are borrowing their playbooks, whether routing, tighter maintenance cycles, and standby windows. Freight indices are hinting at permanent hedging, not panic. Cape premiums didn't snap back fast even when attacks paused. That tells you carriers priced a longer tail of risk. Insurers are experimenting too, lower deductibles for partner ports with audited SAR coverage and vetted pilotage. Surcharges waived when ships use approved southern nodes. Translation: go where the risk controls are predictable, get a break. If southern ports can prove faster inspections, reliable tugs, and winterized repair capacity, they become the safety discount. And psychologically, this reframes danger as managed risk, a narrative that keeps ops teams confident and CFOs calm. Now let's talk time and fuel, because that's what CEOs sign. For a large container ship, Cape versus Suez can mean 500 extra nautical miles, 10+ days depending on speed. Southern routes aren't a straight swap, but for Pacific South to Atlantic South cargo, hugging the Magellan system and skirting above the worst Drake weather can narrow the gap, if you trust the forecast. Everything changes when you can predict a 7-day window with 80% confidence and pre-stage support. Seasonality is the gatekeeper. Late austral spring to early autumn offers more workable windows. But that's exactly how contingency planning works. You don't flip your whole fleet. You shift the marginal voyages where the South saves time versus a Cape detour and beats the Red Sea insurance gamble. Bulkers and energy carriers usually move first, flexible schedules, fewer port calls. Liners follow only if the corridor can guarantee schedule integrity. That means pilots on call, bunkers ready, inspections smooth, and towage within minutes. The hook for planners: credible 7-day windows they can show to boards and insurers without getting laughed out of the room. You probably think storms kill this idea. They slow it, but they can be planned around. The real ship killer is uncertainty across the whole chain. Insurance that reprices mid-voyage, canal queues you can't see, pirates, and sudden depth limits. When CFOs compare risk-adjusted cost, a well-instrumented southern corridor starts to look like a hedge worth paying for, occasionally at first. Charterers are writing this into contracts. New clauses allow route flexibility based on security advisories and meteorological thresholds. Masters get authority to deviate south without breaching schedule guarantees if third-party models cross predefined risk lines. That's not a stunt. That's institutionalizing the option. What signals permanence? Look at orders and upgrades. Ice-class retrofits tick up not for Arctic runs, but for hull resilience in southern seas. Towage and SAR tenders near the Strait of Magellan expand. Bunkering operators secure low-sulfur fuel stocks with contingency volumes. And a couple of carriers have quietly trialed triangle loops. South America West Coast, Southern Hop, South America East Coast. learning crew rhythms and maintenance intervals in rougher water. Here's the part almost nobody noticed. One country already assembled the southern stack, research bases for presence, satellite and ground stations for weather and routing, a growing polar ice-capable fleet, and financing lines into Patagonia logistics. The Drake Passage has no toll booth, but the services around it do. Control the pilots, the tugs, the data, and the insurance discounts, and you control the decision. We'll name names next, and yes, it matches the pattern you've seen in 130-plus overseas port stakes since the 2010s. Geographic reality check, the chokepoint nobody owns. Let's ground this in reality. The Drake Passage isn't a canal, it's a funnel where three oceans smash together. The Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Southern all converge through a roughly 600-mile gate with no walls, no locks, and no toll collector. But don't confuse no owner with no control. Control here lives in the supporting systems: ports, pilots, tugs, icebreakers, weather data, and search and rescue coverage. Here's what actually happens below the headlines. The Antarctic circumpolar current, the most powerful on Earth, threads through this gap and gets squeezed upward by the seabed. That's why storms ramp fast and waves stack. Predictability is the currency, and the only way to buy it is with information and response capacity. If you can forecast a workable window and guarantee assistance, you shrink the Drake's chaos into managed risk. That framing is a psychological switch for operators. Fear becomes protocol. Now this is important because shipping managers don't need a calm Drake. They need a corridor with known rules. And that corridor isn't just ocean. It's Ushuaia, Punta Arenas, Puerto Williams, and the Strait of Magellan network. These are the real gatekeepers. The state may not own the water, but it licenses pilots, sets port-state control standards, certifies tugs and line handlers, and decides who gets fuel first when stock's tight. Think of it as a layered gate. Layer 1, physical reality, storms, currents, ice. Layer 2, operational reality, pilots, SAR, repair, bunkering. Layer 3, informational reality, exclusive forecast models, seabed maps, and sensor arrays. You can't own the Drake, but you can own layers 2 and 3, and that's where leverage lives. Let me show you how power shows up without a flag on the chart. Pilots are scarce, experience is narrower than in typical sea lanes, and the Strait of Magellan's channels require local knowledge. If a port authority mandates pilotage for certain classes of vessels or weather conditions, it effectively creates a queue. If bunkering windows are rationed after a storm backlog, priority goes to whoever has pre-booked credit and shore-based storage on hold. Those are invisible tolls. Everything changes when seasonal corridors are mapped with granular storm data. Late spring to early autumn offers more workable windows, but the advantage comes from predictability, not averages. Proprietary models that assimilate buoy data, satellite wind fields, and localized wave spectra can turn a maybe into a go with 80% confidence. The port that plugs those models into a dispatcher's screen and an insurer's dashboard suddenly becomes the low-risk node. You probably think an unowned choke point means free-for-all. It's the opposite. Without a sovereign toll, the market builds the gate. Ports bundle services, pilotage, tugs, berthing, bunker logistics, rapid inspections into time guarantees. Miss the slot and costs cascade. Make the slot and insurers shave the premium. That's a private toll booth in everything but name. No canal, no fee? There's still a price. Call it service rent. The ship pays in delays avoided, in spare parts staged, in repair teams on standby who have actually seen that class of vessel before. Add icebreaker availability for fringe season escorts. Not military icebreakers, dual-use research and auxiliary platforms that can slot into rescue or channel-leading roles without breaching treaty lines. Presence without provocation. Here's where the information layer becomes king. Seabed mapping around approach routes reduces grounding risk in tight straits. Acoustic arrays pick up iceberg roll and drift signals earlier than satellite eyes. Weather buoys feed high-frequency updates into nowcasts that actually reflect microclimates off Cape Horn. Whoever runs those sensors can gate access to the best forecasts, or tie them to preferred customers and partner insurers. But here's the twist. Predictability is portable only if the land side is synchronized. A perfect weather window is useless if a ship can't get a pilot within an hour, bunkers within 6, or a tug on 10 minutes notice. That means standardized port playbooks, same checklists, same radio procedures, same inspection criteria across the southern nodes. The port that enforces consistency becomes the de facto coordinator of the passage. What about the unownable line? Maritime law keeps the water open, yes, but port state control can throttle speed through the system. Safety inspections framed as routine can slow non-partnered vessels. Environmental compliance checks can stretch a call by a day. Meanwhile, preferred users glide through a green lane because their data is pre-shared and their records pre-cleared. Remember this, predictability equals power. In the north, canals sell time. In the south, ports sell certainty. And certainty requires capital, weather tech, tug fleets, winterized yards, and trained pilots paid to linger on standby. That's why the real contest isn't for the Drake itself. It's for the land and data scaffolding wrapped around it. So the question is, who owns the passage? It's who builds the corridor. And when control shifts from water to land, the map points straight to two countries at the bottom of the Americas, one straddling the Magellan Gateway, the other crowning the Beagle Channel. They don't own the chokepoint, they own its levers. Now we meet the gatekeepers and the incentives shaping their choices. The gatekeepers, Chile and Argentina's levers. Everything changes when you zoom in on the southern shelf. Chile and Argentina don't own the Drake, but they control the knobs that make it usable. Ports, pilots, bunkers, repair yards, and the rules that decide who goes first when weather squeezes everyone at once. Think Punta Arenas and Puerto Williams on the Chilean side, Ushuaia and Rio Grande on the Argentine side. Add the Strait of Magellan and Beagle Channel as sheltered connectors. That's the practical corridor. Start with infrastructure. Punta Arenas is the veteran hub. Deepwater berths, dependable tug fleet, established bunkering, and a service ecosystem that knows science vessels, trawlers, cruise ships, and naval auxiliaries. Ushuaia counters with scale and runway, big pier length, heavy lift cranes, and the largest Antarctic tourism throughput on Earth. Those tourist seasons weren't just for postcards. They trained a logistics workforce to turn ships fast in tight windows. When the South becomes a hedge route, that muscle memory matters. Pilotage is the first invisible toll. Both countries mandate pilots for certain classes and conditions in the Magellan and Beagle systems, and pilot rosters are finite. If a southerly blows and 5 rerouted ships show up at once, someone waits, unless they've pre-booked priority through a port agreement or a financing covenant tied to service levels. That's leverage you can't see on AIS, a 2-hour pilot dispatch versus 8. Bunkering is the second lever. In normal times, fuel suppliers balance tourism peaks, fishing seasons, and national fleets. In contingency mode, demand spikes are lumpy. Storage tanks, pipeline capacity, and barge availability become gatekeepers. Chile's network around Punta Arenas, plus depots feeding the Magellan system, lets operators stage low-sulfur VLSFO and MGO with option volumes. Ushuaia has suppliers, but depth, whether exposure and barge scheduling, can stretch timelines unless pre-negotiated. Whoever expands onshore storage and locks guaranteed delivery windows can auction certainty to the highest volume customers. Repairs and spares, that's the third lever. Rougher seas mean more wear, hull coatings, shaft seals, HVAC failures, sensor losses. Punta Arenas hosts yards and workshops that already service Antarctic programs, winches, crane hydraulics, comms gear. Ushuaia fields competent outfits too, but heavy-class dry dock options are farther. The port that stockpiles class-approved spares and maintains 24/7 technician rosters quietly sells time insurance. Miss a weather window because a pump failed, and you've paid a hidden toll. Search and rescue coverage is the fourth lever, and it's marketable. Coast Guard assets, helicopter range, fast rescue craft, and joint SAR protocols let insurers reduce deductibles for ships that file pre-plans and sail with port-linked beacons. Chile's Maritime Authority has long covered the Magellan and Cape Horn approaches with practice procedures. Argentina's Prefectura has the Beagle and Drake staging lanes. Publish response times, run exercises with foreign navies dressed as environmental drills, and you've turned presence into a routing incentive. Law and paperwork are the fifth lever. Bilateral port access rules, Coast Guard inspection regimes, and cabotage pressures can be tuned to nudge behavior. Declare standardized environmental inspections for southern transits. Offer green lanes to vessels that pre-submit data packages, use approved pilots, and accept random audit rights. For everyone else, routine safety checks stretch a call by a day. That's legal throttle framed as stewardship. Now financing. Both countries need capital to upgrade. And capital doesn't just buy cranes, it buys precedence. Lender covenants can stipulate preferred user lists, minimum tug availability, and ring-fenced fuel. If a Chinese policy bank finances a bunkering expansion or a pier extension, expect service-level agreements that quietly favor partner fleets or alliance carriers. Western credit guarantees can do the same if they show up with real tenor and political risk coverage. Debt shapes the queue. Domestic politics add friction and opportunity. Argentina faces sovereignty narratives, debt sensitivity, and the allure of foreign investment that doesn't lecture. Chile balances environmental norms, institutional capacity, and a tradition of maritime professionalism. Both can weaponize nationalism against foreign control while still cutting deals that tie services to specific consortia. The trick is packaging upgrades as national resilience with export multipliers. Jobs, training, downstream services, and an Antarctic science dividend. Cooperation versus competition, both. They'll compete for Southern Logistics Crown branding, Ushuaia's Antarctica Gateway versus Punta Arenas' Magellan Master Node. But smart planners align playbooks, interoperable pilot standards, shared SAR compacts, mirrored inspection templates, and data sharing that feeds a single risk dashboard. Synchronized procedures then market 2 doors into 1 corridor. Ships hate surprises more than they love discounts. So who's funding the upgrades? Quietly, the courtships are active. Chinese-linked entities have kicked tires on pier extensions, fuel storage, cold ironing, and satellite ground stations. European and US-backed funds float credit lines for tug fleets, yard equipment, and SAR gear, often slower but with reputational premium. Insurers whisper about co-investing in weather buoys and port digital twins if they get exclusive model outputs. And one investor class wants what everyone needs: edge compute near the straits to run proprietary nowcasts tied to booking systems. Here's the tell to watch. When you see pilot academies expand intake, SAR exercises scheduled with foreign research vessels, and bunkering SLAs published with penalties paid in time, the corridor is professionalizing. When port authorities integrate vessel data, insurer thresholds, and meteorological triggers into a single clearance app, the invisible toll booth just went live. And when a financing term sheet includes preferred assistance sequence during congestion, you found the real owner of the line everyone will stand in. T's delivered. The money behind several of these moves wants more than port fees. They want data rights, dashboard control, and soft veto power over who gets cleared when windows close. We'll name them in a minute. China's long game in the south. Now we name names. The player building the southern stack early wasn't guessing. It was following a pattern it already proved elsewhere. Ports plus logistics, research bases, icebreakers, and data stations. Tie them together with financing, then wrap the whole thing in science. That stack belongs to China. Here's what actually shows up on the ground. In Patagonia, Chinese-linked capital has circled pier extensions, fuel storage, and logistics parks near Punta Arenas and around Tierra del Fuego, often via local partners or consortium structures that keep headlines quiet. The money isn't just for steel, it's for rights, priority berthing windows, data sharing terms, and covenants that trigger service guarantees for designated fleets. That's leverage without flags. It fits the broader pattern. More than 100 overseas ports with Chinese stakes since the 2010s and BRI financing that trades capital for operational influence. But the real backbone is dual-use logistics. Satellite ground stations in southern Chile and Argentina, publicly framed as civilian data reception, feed weather, ice, and routing models. Tie those to shipborne terminals and you've created a proprietary forecast loop. Layer in seabed mapping, acoustic sensors, and AIS augmentation, and suddenly your models beat everyone else by a day. In the Drake, a day is everything. Science is the cover, but it's also the delivery vehicle. China's Antarctic research footprint is expanding, with Kinling Station in the Ross Sea and a growing network of bases that require reliable resupply chains from South America. Every season teaches another logistics lesson. Tug requirements in foul weather, spare parts consumption rates, medical evacuation thresholds, and buffer stock design. Those lessons become operating procedures that commercial partners can adopt tomorrow. Icebreakers tie the story together. China's polar-class fleet, Zhulong and Zhulong 2, with a nuclear-powered concept under discussion, aren't warships but their presence platforms. They escort, they map, they test hull forms in harsh seas, and they train crews who can read the South like locals. In shoulder seasons, an ice-capable research vessel can become an unofficial channel leader for convoys framed as environmental monitoring. Treaty-compliant, operationally decisive. Now this is important because leverage stacks. Start with port improvements loosely linked to Chinese contractors or financing lines. Add bunkering storage where service-level agreements quietly preference partner carriers in congestion. Anchor a satellite station uplink nearby to guarantee superior data. Fold in a polar research vessel visit that rehearses SAR and environmental drills with local authorities. Then offer insurers dashboard access that reflects all that capacity. Where do ships go? Where the dashboard says risk is lowest. Critics jump to militarization. That misses the mechanics. You don't need troops to steer a choke point. You need the pilots, the tugs, the forecast advantage, and the phone number that gets answered at 3 a.m. Dual use is the engine. Research stations with satellite dishes, meteorological networks that also refine maritime domain awareness, and university exchanges that train local pilots and technicians on Chinese-funded simulators. The output isn't a base, it's a habit of using your services first. Follow the supply chain. Chinese tourism flows already pass through Ushuaia. Cargo flows will follow if the corridor delivers time certainty. Financing sweeteners, discounted port fees for long-term volume commitments, escrow-backed fuel availability, and guaranteed towage lock in behavior. If you're a carrier staring at a storm-compressed window, you take the guaranteed slot. If the guarantee habit sits on Chinese-backed infrastructure, the influence compounds. You probably think treaty limits block this. The Antarctic Treaty and Madrid Protocol ban mineral exploitation and military measures, yes. But they don't ban logistics mastery, data ownership, or ice-capable research fleets. And inspections don't touch the decision layer. Who gets pilots first, who sees the best forecasts, who's pre-cleared with digital paperwork. That's lawfare via logistics, exactly the gray zone behavior noted by multiple governments in open reports. Talent is the quiet play. China's polar programs are training navigators, meteorologists, marine engineers, and SAR coordinators with polar experience. Crew rotations across research and auxiliary vessels build a bench that can populate joint exercises with southern authorities. The exercise labels say rescue and oil spill response. The outcomes are radio procedures, call trees, and muscle memory. When the storm hits, those habits pick the winner. Let's talk data again because that's the crown. Weather buoys seeded in partnership with local universities, high-frequency radar along key approaches, and satellite tasking prioritized for southern seas produce proprietary nowcasts. Feed that into a port digital twin, berth occupancy, tug cycles, pilot rest schedules, bunker barge positions, and you can sell time to the minute. Bundle an insurer into the same platform and you can sell cheaper time. Investments in Patagonia logistics look small on paper. A warehouse cluster here, a cold iron hookup there, an uplink dish on a hill. But they're anchor points for a network that scales. Each node reduces variability, each contract captures another chunk of decision-making. The more ships that flow through your pre-booked services, the more data you collect, the better your models get, the more attractive your corridor becomes. That flywheel spins quietly. Now the question that matters. What does China want in return? 3 things. First, shipping leverage, routing influence that can be traded in broader negotiations. Second, treaty positioning, being the indispensable logistics partner before 2048 gives you a louder voice when the review door opens. Third, resource-adjacent data, seabed, currents, ice dynamics, usable later if rules shift, or sooner for cable routes and acoustic arrays. You don't need to own Ushuaia or Punta Arenas to guide the corridor. You need options contracts on services, data rights, and trained people in the loop. And you need your ice-capable assets making routine appearances that normalize your presence without provoking a flag fight. So when you see a Chinese research vessel coordinating a joint rescue drill off Cape Horn, a new satellite dish near a logistics park, and a financing term sheet that mentions bunkering SLAs and digital preclearance, connect the dots. That's the long game. Science on the masthead, logistics in the ledger, data in the vault. And the Drake, it doesn't need a toll booth when the turnstile is the dashboard you own.